My wife is looking up divorce papers. So I'm freaking out. I thought we had a happy marriage. We've been married for 6 years and dating for 10. We started dating when I was 20 and she was 23. My wife and I have always been very open with each other. We share passwords and have never hidden anything. When we have disagreements, we get through it together. We have never screamed or yelled at each other. We are in couples therapy and individual therapy. Not because of anything wrong with our relationship, but because we want to make sure that we are happy. My wife always says better prevention than cure. Yesterday, she left her laptop open and I saw she was looking up New York divorce papers and how to see if someone was cheating and some subreddits. There was 5 or 6 tabs open. I pretended I didn't see anything, but went into the bathroom and I threw up. I've been shaking in anxiety, and my wife has noticed I haven't left her side, and she's asked me if anything was wrong. Readers, I have never cheated and never even thought of cheating. I don't even watch stuff. I don't even know how she could think I would betray her like this. If it's the opposite and she's cheating, I don't even know how she would do it, because even if she didn't love me, she doesn't even have the time. I checked her phone and computer, and she doesn't have anything previously downloaded. There is nothing fishy and nothing suggesting even an emotional affair. She has been incredibly affectionate. She loves me and would never hurt me, so it's me she thinks. I have a part-time bakery catering business that I run from home, and she works from home for literally 70 to 80-hour work weeks and is the breadwinner. We haven't left each other's side, and I love it that way. COVID was actually good for us because we could spend so much time together. My wife is the love of my life. I'm in the process of being diagnosed and looking at symptoms online. I'm pretty sure she's my favorite person. It's unhealthy, but she's never complained about me being clingy or overbearing. I don't know why she would want a divorce. I'm afraid to talk to her about it because what if she starts to think of divorcing me and realizes that she is so much better and deserves so much more and just leaves? I feel like somehow talking about the D word will manifest it and ruin all the happiness I have. I wish I never saw it. Today she joked that we'd literally melt together because I haven't stopped holding her all morning. I'm afraid that I'll fall asleep and she'll disappear from my life. And now in the comments, just ask her. Tell her what you have seen and that you want the truth. And OP says, I'll ask her tonight. She's working on a project at work and I already made her legs fall asleep. Because I like resting my head or my chest on her lap while she works. If she's anything like my wife, it may be entirely unrelated. She may be helping a friend who is in belief their significant other is cheating. Definitely ask her, but ensure that if it is just a misunderstanding, that she knows the stress it put you through. Touchy subjects like these should have been mentioned at some point beforehand to ensure you wouldn't become insecure or worried. Absolutely mention it to her, and if it's a misunderstanding, make it a legitimate topic at your couples counseling. Talk about it. For all you know, she was looking up stuff to help a friend. You said you were really open with her, so be open about it. Helping a friend was my thought as well. Definitely should ask about it rather than going through stress. I'm very happily married. I once looked up the cost and proceeds for divorce in my state because I was reading a Reddit post and got curious. I have no intention of divorcing my husband. It was an intellectual itch that got scratched. I agree with the others. There is a chance someone she knows is suspicious and she's either helping them or scratching an intellectual itch. I had a coworker who was certain he would be fired. There were no complaints, hints, and no discernible shred of a reason he would be fired. He hadn't even been talked to or written up. So he started getting his ducks in line, which meant he would act super paranoid and defensive. It went so far that he tried to secretly download a keystrokes logger on a few work computers so he could see exactly what complaints or comments about him said, even though there were no complaints. That is until IT noticed the logger and supervisors started putting everything together with his recent abnormal behavior. He was so worried about being blindsided by firing that he created multiple reasons to fire him. This is what you were doing. Your clinging and anxiety, your inability to talk to your spouse out of what if, is going to be 100 times more harmful and dangerous than whatever it is your brain is imagining. You need to step back and talk to your therapist and then your partner before you do something too obsessive and clingy that forces her to leave. And back up to the post, we have some edits. I know I need to talk to my wife. This is event thread, and as someone who has anxiety and possible BPD, I am very grateful for the empathetic and actionable comments. My wife and I decided together, after she suggested it, to have me work part-time. I run a catering business from home. I do all of the housework. My wife works in a demanding field, and part of the reason for the long hours is all the pro bono work that she does. I am very proud of her, and though I wish she cut back on hours for her own health, I would never dream of asking her to quit a job that she loves and has a positive impact on. Edit, please stop spreading lies for no reason. I have literally never yelled at my wife, much less yelled at her for not baking. My wife does not bake. She does not lift a finger in our house. Thanks again for all the support. I'm talking with her tonight, or maybe tomorrow morning. My wife has a pretty big project at work that she needs to finish, and that's no time to have a conversation. Logically, I know she might be researching for a friend of hers, but mentally and emotionally, my brain is screaming that she forgot to close the window that she's leaving me, and I'll never be with the love of my life again. Right now, I'm leaving her to work and just watching some random show. And now on to the update. I just want to say that I'm very grateful for everyone's love and support. Last night, my wife asked me if anything was wrong. She was finally done with work, so I asked her why she had tabs full of divorce information. It wasn't for a friend or family or anyone we knew. The divorce tab was because she recently read a cozy mystery with a divorce turned murder and thought that it was so bad and unrealistic that she could write one better. My wife is an avid reader, me not so much, and likes to read mystery novels, though I secretly think it's because she can complain about them to me. I read some of it this morning and my wife's short story is better than most movies, to be honest. I could see her becoming an author when we retire. I struggle with my mental health, and though my wife has been through trauma, she's a stronger person than me. Though I knew logically that she was looking for some other reason than our relationship, mentally and emotionally, my brain was screaming at me that she was going to leave and I was going to lose the love of my life. I have suspected BPD, and my wife is my FP and my soulmate. I know some of my behavior is unhealthy, but it's an uphill struggle. It doesn't help that my wife is the most amazing, selfless, loving person that I know. I was the product of a one-night stand to two parents who didn't want me. Neither of them had steady jobs or relationships, or really any desire to parent. If I was too much of a burden for my dad, he'd drop me off to my mum's, who wouldn't be home. I'd be locked outside her apartment until she came home at 2 a.m. There would be nothing in the fridge, school wasn't much better. I was the weird short kid with long greasy hair and 2-day-old clothes, and I was relentlessly bullied. When I was 14, I was finally taken away by my maternal grandparents, who didn't have a relationship with my mom. And although they loved me, they couldn't take care of me because they were old. We lived in a tiny house stuffed full of useless things. When I was 19, my grandma died. Lung cancer. I think my grandpa died then too. He stopped eating properly. They were deeply in love. I met my wife when my grandpa was dying of heart disease. I was 20 and she was 23. She worked as a consultant and had been working 90+ hours. We met a mutual friend for lunch and he introduced us. After lunch, we ended up spending the whole day and night together just talking. It was amazing. I felt bad because her parents yelled at her for not calling them that night. I asked her out the next day and she said yes. My grandpa died a month later. She helped me with the funeral and came over to help clean the house without even me asking. For the first time, I could actually see the walls of the house that I lived in. My mum wanted the inheritance. My grandparents didn't leave any inheritance, just debt and a house my mum didn't want. She didn't even care about me. My wife got me a lawyer friend to keep our mum away, and my mum didn't even care once she found out there was no money. My wife supported me through it all. A few months later, my wife said she was going to her home country for a visit. Her grandmother was sick. The first day she called, and then for a month there was radio silence. I thought my wife got tired of me and I hated myself for burdening her. It was a bad spiral. Finally, there was a call, and she asked me if I could help find where she was and how to get to the nearest airport. Her parents had hidden away her passport, and she was sure she was going to be married off. She stole back her US passport. Her job paid for her flight back, even though they had previously fired her for not checking in for 2 weeks. I met her at the airport. She looked so tired. Our next date night, she looked better, but I had a feeling something was wrong. I followed her and she was going to a woman's shelter. Her parents had cleared out her bank account and she didn't have a place to stay. I told my wife that she could live with me at my grandparents' house and it wasn't a burden. She tried to do all the chores and pay rent at the same time, but I was just happy she was with me. Though it was twisted, I was secretly kind of thrilled that she ran away from the marriage. To me, it felt like she chose me over her parents. Her parents tried to track her down, we got married, and they cut her off for good. Like me, she didn't get much physical affection growing up either. She was expected to get great grades and clean up after everyone because she was a girl. There was physical abuse. Education was a way for her to be more marriageable, and that's why they agreed to let her get a job while going to grad school. Once she finished, she would be married off to an older man and be a housewife. She didn't want that. We had to build up our finances from the ground up. My wife likes experts who tell us what to do with our money, our relationship, our house remodeling, because she wants us to be happy. I'm terrified of losing her, that someday she'll realize that she could have something better because I need her so much. People on the thread have told me that I'm too clingy, that my wife secretly hates that. Now when I hold on to my wife or rest my head on her chest or lap, I wonder if she's lying that she loves that she's just tolerating me. I talked with my therapist and he told me some techniques to get my anxiety under control and some techniques for BPD, as he is CBT therapist. I still have my diagnosis coming up in 5 months. My wife loves me and she is not leaving me. And now in the comments, Jesus buddy, no wonder you're clingy, you've been through the frickin' ringer. And OP says, my childhood was awful. My therapist says that's usually a cause, symptom, and thing of BPD. My wife's was terrible too, but we are happy together. Sometimes it feels like too good of a dream. Well, turns out similar with my comment in the original post. I wrote once that I fell into a rabbit hole of Googling about divorce after watching a K-drama about divorce. I'm glad it turns out that way. I hope you also get better with your mental health, OP. It could be tiring for your wife, in my opinion. And OP says, I want to get better for my wife. She's really the only thing that makes me truly happy. Please don't take this the wrong way, but if you want to truly get better, you have to do it for you, because you are worth it, because you deserve to learn how to treat yourself better. I believe it was the Dalai Lama who said that true happiness comes from within. There is a real truth to that. Good luck, OP. Be kind to yourself. If my husband ever looked up my search history, there would be questions. I spent a month Googling how to get away with murder for a novel idea once. Same here. How much arsenic to kill a grown man? Would probably raise some eyebrows for my hubby. I'm just into true crime, I swear. When he mentioned the open Reddit tabs, I really started to identify with the wife. Whenever I see someone posting about an abusive relationship, I start posting links to them, and then I worry. If I was murdered and anyone made a forensic account of my search history, there would be so much damning stuff about domestic violence. My lovely, pacifist, thoughtful husband would be the prime suspect. I'm really glad that OP knows that he needs help and is navigating the entirely too inefficient mental health system to get it. He can't get a diagnosis for 5 more months? F. Frankly, I would also lose my entire mind if I saw divorce research on my spouse's laptop, so I think he could stand to cut himself some slack on that front. It's not like he flipped out and started screaming at her. He had an intense emotional response, but so would most people. Communication skills could be improved, but I also understand being afraid to start that conversation. Just because he doesn't have a diagnosis doesn't mean the therapist isn't doing anything. Some mental illnesses have a temporal element where they may share symptoms for periods of time, and then one will switch. So you can only truly diagnose after some amount of time. But he also mentions about how his therapist is giving him techniques to deal with and manage the symptoms already. A diagnosis isn't everything. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for the email that I sent to a teacher about her 'you have to include everyone' rules, saying that was a dangerous lesson? My daughter is 12. I'm trying to teach her ways of creating and respecting her boundaries that are age appropriate, teaching her that it's okay to say no to things that she feels uncomfortable with. There is a boy in her class who keeps bothering her and her female friends at recess. I've encouraged her to go to me or her teacher when this happens. My daughter told me a few days ago that in class, the teacher had asked the kids to form groups of about 4 or 5. She had formed a group of 5 with some other girls, then the boy who had been giving her trouble at recess came over and said he was joining their group. Another girl said that they already have 5, and he should work with a group who only have 2 or 3 people. He said no because the teacher had said about 4 or 5. My daughter then said that they didn't want to work with him, and he should find another group. A few of the other girls agreed with her, and he said that you can't exclude me like that, it's against class rules. And she said she didn't care. I heard about this from my daughter first, and the way she talked about it, she had been firm but not unkind. But then I got an email from her teacher saying that she wanted to call. She said that there had been an incident at school where my daughter had excluded another child, and that wasn't allowed in her class, and she wanted me to have a talk with her about it. Her telling of events was the same as my daughter's. I felt proud of my daughter for her honesty. I sent her an email saying, "Dear Mrs. Teacher, I'm sorry, but that is not a lesson that I feel comfortable teaching my daughter. She is at the age where she's already having to deal with unwanted attention, and I'm making a point to teach her that she does not have to be around anyone who makes her uncomfortable, and that a young lady is able to choose to spend time with people who make her feel respected. I understand you already are aware, boy has been behaving in ways that she feels uncomfortable with at recess from our prior conversations. I think it is a very dangerous lesson to teach a girl that she has to include and be kind to everyone, instead of teaching her to be aware of when someone is not respecting her no and stepping out of the situation. I hope I don't have to explain in too much detail why I find this important, but to put it briefly, I was brought up with the include everyone mindset, no exceptions. It taught me to ignore my own comfort level, and as I became a young adult, I became the victim of men who used my inability to say no to their advantage. It's a dangerous lesson, and no longer appropriate at that age. Thank you, OP." She emailed me back asking for a meeting in person with the principal. I'm preparing for that, but wondering if my email was too harsh. Am I the asshole for my response to my daughter's teacher? Personally, I don't really think so. I think you've laid out all your reasons for why, and you've given a real-life example as to where that lesson has gone awry, where that lesson has gone wrong. Because there really are men who will use your inability to say no to their advantage. There are also women in this world who will take your inability to say no to their advantage also. It's a dangerous world out there. If you teach someone to have their guard down at all times and accepting of everyone, that's just a recipe for disaster. There's a reason that we have guards up and that we are cautious of people. I think this teacher is doing your daughter and everyone else a disservice. I can see where she's coming from, but she is taking this lesson to an extreme, and I don't support it. And now they're trying to bully you with the principal. I'm going with not the asshole for this one. And now in the comments, you could point out that the boy didn't need to join their group, as there were other incomplete groups. He wanted to join that one that was already complete for the sole reason that your daughter was in the group. Ask them when, and more importantly, why his want to be near your daughter superseded your daughter's need to feel safe from his unwanted advances and harassment. Not the asshole. Opie, please, please, please use this line of reasoning with the teacher and administrator. All children should be allowed to set boundaries from unwanted attention. I would also use the word bully when you meet with a principal. If they are not understanding anything else, they will understand that this boy has been bullying your daughter at recess. It is infuriating that the bigger picture, but they do have strict rules about bullying. Actually, using the words sexual harassment, sexual assault, stalking, etc. can get their attention faster. Please, please read this. I used to work in the public school system, and now I have to deal with it as a parent. If anything, you were not harsh enough. Many teachers are willing to die on whatever hill they have in their focus because of the frequent dictatorial personality type in traditionally structured educational environments. Quite frankly, you should be willing to die on that hill too. After reading your email to the teacher, she's probably thinking that with her and the principal against you, that you will go down easily, and that the likely result is you apologizing to them. I would not hesitate to bring someone else with you. Even if you're a straight-up hard-ass and you were trying to be overly polite in your email, you need a witness as well as someone to balance the power. I would use the words bullying as well as sexual harassment. I would also not hesitate to use the words legal action, school board, media, victimization, etc. I would also insist upon making an audio recording of the meeting. If they protest, I would reschedule with an attorney present. I would also go into the meeting with copies of everything your daughter has told you, as well as anything any other girl in the classroom would share. To be honest, I wouldn't hesitate to show up with attorney as well as parents of the other girls that this boy has harassed. You need to be completely uncompromising, because unless it's an extremely rare situation, the teacher and the principal are currently seeing you as an annoying gnat that they simply can swat away between the two of them. You should go in that room knowing that. It sucks, but it's like going to a mechanic and car dealership. The scarier the man you take with you, the smoother everything goes. My kids have food allergies, and my wife fought for months to get a 504 plan. I show up to the next meeting and it was, "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." She is still mad about it 10 years later. After that incident, she started loaning me to her single friends as backup. Absolutely insane. You are not the asshole here. Your email was much more polite than mine would have been, and I would actually ask to speak to the principal without her. Not the asshole. I am fed up to the back teeth with men and boys getting away with nonsense like this. In fact, I think you were careful to be polite in your letter and could have gone further. Especially so in this case, as it seems you have pointed out problems with this boy in the past, so it's not something the teacher is unaware of. Prepare yourself for the meeting. Have a list of exactly all the incidents of harassment, for that is what it is, that your daughter has experienced. Be specific. Say that you have mentioned it to the teacher before and state what actions were taken. It sounds like nothing. See if you can look up some facts about the rise in harassment of girls at school. Say this boy was harassing her and her friends, and that she has the right to not work with someone that she feels uncomfortable with. Ask them what they plan to do about the boy's actions. If it's not sufficient, tell them you'll go higher, to the principal's boss and the school board. See if the school will not be responsible for ensuring the safety of its pupils, you will consider legal actions. Stand up to them. Don't let the bullies win. And now to the edit to update. So I reached out to the parents of the other 4 girls in the class who were involved, and we all coordinated to go speak to the school administration together. They had similar views, thinking it was inappropriate for the school to expect the girls to work with someone who they are not comfortable with, and frustrated the teacher didn't do more to deal with the issues during recess that made the girls uncomfortable to start with. I ended up asking the school if we could reschedule the meeting to a time all the involved families could make, and we ended up meeting this afternoon along with my husband, another couple, 2 mothers, and a father, along with the teacher and principal. We all presented a united front asking for the following. The school does training for the teachers on trauma-informed teaching methods and the dangers of expecting young women to go against their best judgment of their own boundaries to be nice. Instead of include everyone, the kids should be allowed to respectfully set boundaries and be taught to respect each other's boundaries. The school addresses harassment in class or at recess and doesn't enable it to continue. We went to talk, and I think it went a lot better having all the parents join instead of if I'd gone alone. The teacher and principal apologized, and the principal agreed to look for resources on how to better navigate the balance between being inclusive and not forcing kids into including someone who was crossing a line with them. Thanks a lot for all the amazing advice in the comments. I cannot believe how much this blew up, and I'm so grateful to everyone who replied with advice and support. And honestly, I was getting pretty emotional hearing how the lessons I'm trying to teach my little one resonated with other women, whether they are mums too, or have been through some of the same struggles that I have. And now in the comments, I doubt it would have gone so well had she not gone with the other parents. Good thinking on her part. You're right. I feel like the school would not have taken it as seriously if she went alone. With other parents, the school now knows this is a problem and they can't ignore it. I agree. These girls were clearly having issues with this boy before, and the school wasn't doing anything to fix the issue. Now the teacher has escalated this by making it the girls are the villains, and the parents are clearly pushing back and saying, how is this kid's bad behavior the fault of these girls? Now the school can't ignore this kid's behavior. This was probably the best way this situation could have been handled. It's nice to see schools dealing with the situation in a good way, although it's a shame the individual teacher had to take it to the principal before backing off. I hope that the boy was also spoken to as well, as it seems he's making multiple girls feel uncomfortable. Even if it isn't intentional, it's better that he learns about boundaries now. People like this give me hope. I wasn't taught any of this in school and I'm in my 30s. Same, I was taught to just ignore them, which rarely works. When I was in middle school, after a year and a half of nasty comments, I finally turned to my bullies. I was a skinny, bookish girl, and I told him that he'd gone too far with what he said, and I punched him. I knocked his glasses off. Next day, his glasses were taped together, and the two of them never said anything to me again. Thanks, Dad, for the boxing lessons you gave me when we watched it while you were sick. I miss you. I'm proud of you. Good for you for standing up to him. My grade school bully used to chase me all over the playground every day, and it drove me insane. Finally, one day I jumped on the swing set and started swinging as high as I could. He lunged for me and I kicked him in the face. Somehow I didn't get in trouble, and he left me alone after that. Josh, if you're reading this, F you. When I was about 8 or 9 and had huge anxiety over everything and no friends, a boy decided that he was going to confess to me. I would hide in the bathroom to avoid him, and he told me I should just hear him out. A nice girl then tried to manipulate me into getting out because I looked silly eating in the bathroom, just to find out she was working with the boy to get me out of the bathroom. She tried to drag me out. After this, my mother went to the school and raised hell. They argued he was just being a boy in love, and my mum said, she has her trapped in a bathroom. What will he learn from this? That he can enter there and do whatever he wants? He stopped after this. We never interacted much after, thankfully. However, we graduated high school together, in different classes, because our school had preschool to high school. It was uncomfortable to even look at him sometimes in our break. Call me a cynic, but as someone who has lived through the "we agree this is a problem and we will do the work to correct it" talk, only to see nothing change, I'm having trouble believing the school is doing more than paying lip service. I really hope I'm wrong. I mean, OP will find out soon enough if nothing is changing. There are ways to raise hell and force change in schools, especially if multiple parents are actively doing so. It'll be a pain in the ass, but it is doable. And that's where I'm going to end this one today, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.